Okay, so the question I have today is, how come you figured that these home run records are not being broken, so hard to be broken today?
Well, they were broken then, of course. I would imagine so, because like I mentioned, people, you have more, well, of course, more, energy, sensation stuff you buy from, you buy over the counter at the local pharmacy, and of course they build up, and people have built much bigger, much good.
What I'm trying to say is
they have more. More drive and push today, and they're better trained today. You see, back then the people were undernourished. In fact, the average ball player could have been 5'8", 5'9", 5'10".
But today they're not breaking the record left and right.
No, they're not breaking records because naturally the defense just gets better. The offense gets better, but as the saying goes, good pitching stops good hitting. Now you see, years ago, pitchers, they would relish the thought of how many complete games they could pitch. In fact, they had pitchers who felt they could pitch at the doubleheaders and pitch both games. The first game throughout all that hot summer. And then, of course, come the evening game, the second game, they could go and pitch the whole game. In fact, Ralph Bracker always wanted to do that. He said, "What? Hey, look at me, I'm strong enough, my arm feels stronger, and I had no qualms about, my arms, my arms starting to feel pain or anything." Now, there wasn't much of 50 days. 50 days, I mean to say, medical problems like. Today, you can hit your finger and you could be out 2 months just for one sore finger. Today, they play through pain, you see. Obstacles like, they weren't as strong as I mentioned. The players were more, more into, more into playing the love of the game. In spite of pains and illnesses and so on, no one complained. In fact, there are many players who played a full season, every game of the year. Today you have like about maybe 40% of the players are all out with, some kind of pains like, and they would set these people aside. Okay, put them on a 50-day, disabled. There's so many people on disability, disabled player list, that's very hard to keep a team togetherness. There's always a break in there someplace where some players left out because of some kind of pain, some kind of an itch or whatever you call it. But they're very sensitive today. Then they won, see? So people, actually they're supposed to be stronger today than then, but then the people they showed themselves a lot better. And I started mentioning before, we had pitchers in those days. They would pitch like by 8, 9, 10 games in a row. It's a full game. Today, it's very seldom a pitcher would go out there and pitch a full game. There's always a reserve call, up there in the outfield, waiting to be called, and you have the relief pitching going on. So of course a pitcher today, they figure them to go 5 or 6 innings, then they pull them out and they bring in one from the resort, the reserve corps, and that's why it goes to show. They were much more dedicated then than they are today. A pitcher has no choice today. He's lucky if he pitches 3 or 4 complete games throughout the whole year. Whereas years ago, they used to pitch full games. Each individual pitcher, who boasted, well, I pitch in that certain year, like about, let's say for example, 1941, right? 41, had a war going on, so I misquoted myself on this. But the thing is, back in the 30s, they used to pitch 25, 26 games. Every pitcher, you know, next to his name, would always show the indication how many games they completed. You don't have that today. Today you have, they pitch on the average of five innings per game taken out. This pitcher here, he pitched 4 innings. He was taken out, and then of course an army of relief pitchers would come after him. And that's why the name of the game today is pitching. Everything is all done with the pitching. And not too much for the actual pitcher. Even though it's considered an outstanding pitcher, and it comes to a point where these people are making over $100 million a year just for going out there. All you have to do is just pitch 4 innings per game. And then you have an army of relief pitchers coming after you. And then of course, and yet you still have to rest another 4 or 5 days to come in to pitch what? The 4 or 5 innings again? You know, something means it's a laughable situation. I laugh myself thinking of it. But I can't laugh, I think back of these pitches not as strong. They might be like about maybe 5 feet 6 inches. And then of course, I mean, the arm wasn't as strong, but they were able to pitch. Pitch their full game, or go through 8 innings, you know, 7 at the, you know, at the least for that matter. But they're more durable. Today, a pitch is not durable. And you have so many of these arm problems. You know, actually, I mean, so taking over the game, they call it Tommy John operation of the shoulder pains, and then of course there's always some excuse, always some reason. The pitcher, you know, thank God if he lasts throughout the whole season. You don't get too much of that. The very few pitchers go through a whole season of, you know, granting well, of course, a season, a full season of pitching.
Now you happen to mention Ralph
Branca. He was okay, but he just made that one big mistake. And you may have heard of the one saying, the shot heard around the world. It was the last game of the season. The Brooklyn Dodgers had a game edge on the New York Giants. They were mortal enemies, because New York Giants, they were the Bronx, the Bronx, or even New York, Manhattan players of the Polo Grounds. And the Brooklyn Dodgers, of course, they were Ebbets Field, Brooklyn. So of course it was Brooklyn versus New York, always that. And that was a bit of an animosity of these two people feeling towards each other. Brooklyn fans hated the New York fans, and New York fans hated the Brooklyn fans. So here it is, and they're at the ball field, the last game of the season. The Dodgers had the lead, and they were, in fact, they had tickets made for the World Series, and they were so sure of being in the World Series. In fact, I believe if you were living somewhere in the deepest part of Africa, you may have heard the Brooklyn Dodgers. Oh yes, they got it made. That's it. They're going into the World Series. Okay, play the American League. Okay, and this is a National League, and then it happened. So here it is. They were doing great, and the game lasted to the last inning, right? The Dodgers had the lead, and they were just about in, and they're ready to go home, pack up, and go to what the assignment was. I think was going to be the first game of the World Series to play in the American League ballpark. And the Brooklyn Dodger fans joying, rebelling, dancing on the streets, knowing we got it, we got the pennant. And here were the Giants and the last inning. So of course, I believe Leo DeRocher, he was a big name in managing. He was a ball player himself, but he wasn't that good. In fact, He had a very low batting average, but because of his ability to play defensively, they kept him on. Teams kept him on, and he was able, to have a job in baseball because of his fielding ability. He was so good at that. So here it is now, and a live wire was on, and the press was on. And here it is, the Giants loaded the bases. But there's 2 out. And of course here comes to the plate Bobby Thomson. So DeRosa decided to make the change. And the Brooklyn Dodgers had this Ralph Branco, naturally. He was a big part of the Brooklyn Dodgers being the top-ranked team in the National League. So, of course, he thought he'd give him the honor of getting the last batter out. 2 out already, Bobby Thomson, and he called in his ace pitcher.
No. Do another chair around.
Okay, I'm almost finished. And he called in his ace pitcher, all ready to put a dressing on this here for the Dodgers going into the American League Park to play and go against the American League. And there's Ralph Branco on the mound, warming up, to get the last batter out of there. Okay, so the pitch comes in. I don't know what pitcher was in, really. Maybe someone out there knows. Okay, and here comes the pitch, and it looks like it's going to be all over now. And here comes the pitch, and Thomson swings, and he catches it, and the ball goes shining. It's going. That's a home run. The shot that was heard around the world. Nobody even imagined. It was unimaginable that the Dodgers would not win the pennant, and the Giants took the lead. And they took the game, and that brought them to the World Series grounds, played the American League. You could imagine how the Brooklyn Dodger fans felt. I felt very bad myself for the longest time. I didn't think that was ever going to happen, and they made sure by bringing Ralph Branco in there, that he was going to be a stop to what threat. The Giants were pulling by putting men on base, and there would be enough runs if it comes in. They will try to win a game, which is always considered impossible. The Giants could not win this game, but that's exactly what happened. They won. They beat the impossible, unimaginable, and they won the pennant. That hurt.